The 2021 NFL draft class is 3 years into their careers, and some players from this class have not only made a big impact with the franchise that selected them, but some are even household names. Guys like Micah Parsons and Jamar Chase will play for the team that drafted them for a very long time, and other players from this class like Penei Sewell and Pat Surtain probably will too. All four of these players mentioned were drafted in the top 12 picks of the 2021 draft, and all four players have more than lived up to the expectations they had as first-round picks. But not every big-name player from this class was a first-round pick. In fact, there were several draft steals from this class that have made tremendous impacts on the franchise that drafted them. This was a viewer-recommended video from the comment section of grading the 2021 draft class 3 years later, and if you are interested in watching that video, that will be linked at the end. But there are several players we are going to discuss in today's video, and without further ado, let's begin. We are starting today's video with the Texans selection of receiver Nico Collins. Nico was a late third-round pick in the 21 draft, and he flashed at times during the 2021 and 2022 seasons, as he had over 400 yards in each year, but bursted onto the scene in a big way in 2023, as he had career highs in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Believe it or not, Nico actually finished 8th in the NFL in receiving yards in 2023, and a lot of his success came from finally having a quarterback, as in the first 2 years of his career, well, Nico was getting passes thrown to him by guys like Davis Mills, Kyle Allen, Jeff Driscoll, and you get the point. During the first 2 years of Nico's career, the Texans went just 7-26-1 as a team, and after the arrival of DeMeco Ryans, CJ Stroud, and Will Anderson, the Texans were the biggest surprise of the 2023 season and would go on to win the AFC South and not only finish the year with a 10-7 record, but would also go on to win a playoff game too. The Texans not only drafted a steal in Nico back in 2021, but they also drafted another good receiver in the third round in 2023 in Tank Dell, and heading into the 2024 season, I do think Nico and Tank will be a good receiving duo of the future for this franchise. Collins is entering the final year of his rookie contract in 2024, and if he stays healthy, along with how good of a quarterback CJ Stroud is, I would be very surprised if he doesn't have another 1,000-yard year, and maybe for the first time in his career, double-digit touchdowns. Nico will be just 25 during the 2024 season, and with the influx of young talent the Texans have had, I can't imagine them not extending Nico for a 3 or 4 year deal, especially after he has a second straight good season. He had 5 100-yard games in 2023 and even had 2 190-plus yard games, and he even missed 2 games in 2023. Had he played all 17 games, we very well could have seen a 1,400-plus yard season from him, and I think he will only build on it next year. This is not a rankings of draft steals per se, but 3 years later, the Texans have one of the best value picks from the 2021 draft, and Nico Collins is just getting started. Staying in the AFC for the next draft steal, and it's Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I absolutely loved JOK in the draft process back in 2021, and I thought the Browns got an absolute steal when they traded up to get him. This was after a successful 2020 season for Cleveland, in which they beat the Steelers in the wildcard round of the playoffs, and after they added both Greg Newsome and JOK in the first 2 rounds of the 2021 draft, I thought they were one of the biggest winners from this draft. JOK made the first Pro Bowl of his career in 2023, and I have a hard time not seeing him be a multiple-time Pro Bowler when it's all said and done. He, in a lot of ways, is the prototype for a linebacker in today's NFL. He's nearly as fast as a DB, and hell, he's faster than some DBs. He has tremendous play recognition, and he is all over the field. He is a true chess piece in the defense, and I really enjoy watching him play. He had over 100 tackles for the first time in his career, and he had an absurd 20 tackles for a loss in 2023, which was by far a career high, and he played a big part in why the 2023 Browns defense was so good. Yes, another player who would go on to win the Defensive Player of the Year, of course, had a big role as well, but I really think JOK is both one of the more underappreciated and underrated players in all of football. In addition to the 20 tackles for a loss he had this year, he also tacked on 3.5 sacks and even had 2 interceptions for Cleveland. Obviously, when you think of the Browns, you think of Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, and maybe even Denzel Ward or Joel Bitonio, but JOK is going to be there for a long time. Like with Nico Collins, he will be just 25 during the 2024 season, and I think it's only a matter of time until he gets paid. He is a great leader both on and off the field, and Browns fans are extremely grateful he is on their team. When JOK was falling in the draft, I was screaming for my team to go up and get him because of the impact he has on the field each and every play. He's fast, he has a very high football IQ, and he is one of my favorite players in the NFL. Every year, players are overthought, and at the end of the day, this selection is an example of why teams should draft good football players and to not overthink it. JOK was a great prospect coming out of Notre Dame, and there are several teams wishing they would have taken JOK that simply passed over him. Up around Lake Erie for the next player, and it is Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions. St. Brown had a slow start to his career as he had just 39 receptions for 352 yards in the first 11 games of his career. If you remember anything from his 2021 season, it was that he had a great end to his rookie year, and that propelled him to the player we know him as today. In the final 6 games of his rookie year, he had 51 receptions for 560 yards and 5 touchdowns, and out of those final 6 games, the least amount of receptions he had during this stretch was 8. That was a sign of things to come as he became the youngest receiver in Lions franchise history to have 1,000 yards, and he is now working on back-to-back 1,000-yard years and looking to make it 3 in a row. St. Brown played a huge part in the Lions' 2023 success, as not only did he build on what he did in 2022, but he became the Lions' first receiver since a guy by the name of Calvin Johnson to be named a first-team All-Pro. We have done several videos on the Lions in the past in regards to how they've built their franchise since Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell took over, and it started with the selection of 2021 first-round pick Penei Sewell. Penei is one of the best offensive linemen in today's NFL, and like Amon-Ra, he is a 2-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time first-team All-Pro. So far, that is. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes wanted to establish a culture of fighting hard and being the last ones to stand up, and if they fall down 7 times, then they will stand up 8 times, and I don't know if there's a better receiver in the entire NFL that could have bought into this type of culture than Amon-Ra. His dad is a 2-time Mr. Universe, and if you know anything about Amon-Ra's story prior to the NFL, it's that his dad played a huge part in not only training his sons, as Amon-Ra's older brother Equanimous has been in the NFL since 2018, but played a huge part in their weightlifting regimen before they got to the league. During Amon-Ra's pre-draft process, he did 20 reps of 225 bench at 197 pounds body weight, which is a lot for anybody, let alone that a receiver that is considered undersized and a guy who is supposed to be a number 2 receiver in the NFL. This video is not a ranking in terms of the biggest draft steals, but I think an argument can be made that Amon-Ra is the biggest steal from the 2021 draft, not just because of the impact he's had on the field, which is obvious, but due in some part to the impact he's had off the field and in the locker room too. The Lions set out to completely change the culture of the franchise as they were sick of being the same old Lions, and obviously there are a lot more players and moving parts than just St. Brown, but he's played a tremendous part in turning around the franchise. Now, from the Motor City to the Bay Area, we go to discuss Talanoa Hufanga of the San Francisco 49ers. Hufanga was both a first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowler in 2022, as San Francisco was on their way to a 13-4 record and an NFC Championship game appearance. The 2022 49ers defense was one of the best units we've seen over the past 5 years, and it was a combination of a lot of things going right all at the same time. They had the Defensive Player of the Year in Nick Bosa, they had a great defensive coordinator in D'Amico Ryans, who of course is now a good head coach with the Texans, they had another first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowler linebacker in Fred Warner, and allowed the fewest points of any NFL team in 2022. Hufanga played a big part in that and had a huge breakout year as he would go on to have 97 total tackles, 4 interceptions including a pick 6, 2 forced fumbles, and even tacked on 2 sacks from the safety position. I know this is cliche considering he went to USC and ironically the beloved hair, but he reminds me a lot of a modern day Troy Polamalu. Both players are instinctual as hell, and when they gamble on plays, they're usually right. It wouldn't be fair to say Hufanga is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer and that he's going to be a future Defensive Player of the Year winner like Troy was in his prime, but he is a damn good player, and unfortunately his 2023 season was ended prematurely due to a torn ACL. The pick 6 against the Rams on a Monday night game in 2022, in which San Fran absolutely embarrassed LA, to me at least defines who he is as a player. He read the play perfectly, and it resulted in a huge play for the Niners. The 49ers have had a tremendous amount of success over the past half decade because they always seem to have another good player or even two on their rookie contracts. During the 2019 season, they had guys like George Kittle, Fred Warner, and Nick Bosa, among others, on their rookie deals, and when they went to the Super Bowl in 23, they had guys like Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, and Talanoa Hufanga on their rookie contracts. Since 2016, the 49ers have drafted at least one Pro Bowler in every draft, excluding 2023 because those guys are only 1 year into their careers, of course, but that's a big reason why this franchise has been so damn good over the past half decade. A Trey Lance type trade would derail a lot of franchises, with virtually no contribution from a first round pick for 3 straight years, but San Francisco finds guys every year in the draft where you least expect it, and 2021 was no different when they were on the clock with the 180th overall pick. Next up is a 2-for-1, and it's Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith to the Chiefs. Creed was the Chiefs' second round pick after they selected linebacker Nick Bolton, and he has been a tremendous center for Kansas City since being drafted. I liked Humphrey a lot coming out of Oklahoma, and I thought this was a classic case of a guy getting pushed down the board due to positional value and that somebody would be getting a steal. I didn't think Creed was close to the 63rd best player in the 21 draft, and 3 years later, he's been named a Pro Bowler twice and is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. He was also a second-team All-Pro in 2022, and All-Pros in this era of center play are extremely tough, so I don't exactly hold it against him for not being a first-team All-Pro, while playing in the same era as Jason Kelce and Frank Ragnow, when there is only one All-Pro at the position each year. This applies to both Creed and Trey, but a big reason as to why the Chiefs have been so successful over the past few years is the emphasis not just in the offensive line, but the interior offensive line. I am a firm believer that being able to limit the opposing team's interior pass rush versus the exterior pass rush is more critical to a team's success, and this is something both Creed and Trey do at a high level. The interior pass rush comment comes from a thought of thinking about Aaron Donald absolutely wrecking a game in the middle where the quarterback has nowhere to go versus a guy like TJ Watt or Myles Garrett or any of your other favorite pass rushers rushing from the edge, and if the interior line holds up, at least the quarterback can step up into the pocket and make a throw. The Chiefs' offensive line was mauled during the Super Bowl against the Bucs, and the Chiefs addressed this in a big way in the 2021 draft, a benefit they are still reaping to this day. Trey Smith fell in the draft due to injury concerns, and he was rated much higher as a prospect from a football standpoint. He is a nasty player in the trenches, and him, Creed, and Joe Thuney do a great job at setting the tone each and every Sunday for Kansas City. There are a few more draft steals from this class on the screen, and I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 28% of people watching are subscribed, and helps the channel tremendously. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.